Good evening, all. Thank you so much for your time, for sharing with us on this interesting topic of technology and future of insurance. We'll be talking about the big trends, the latest trends which we are seeing, which the industry can benefit from your views and ideas around artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, and the robotic process automation. Before we go into the topic and try and understand what various companies are trying to do at individual capacity, I would request each panel member to give their introduction, which company they belong to, and what do they do. So I'll start with Deepu.
Thanks, Aves. Good to meet all of you. I handle operations, customer service, and communities at Bajaj Allianz General Insurance. And in my role, my primary mandate is to drive digital transformation. I've been with Bajaj Allianz for more than 4 years now. And prior to that, I worked with G Capital for 20 years. So looking forward to a good discussion with all of you.
Thank you, Deepu. Puneet.
Good evening. I'm Puneet Kaur Kohli, and thank you, Aves, for the opportunity. I've recently joined as a CTO for Universal Sompo General Insurance Company Limited. Prior to this, I was working as a group CTO and CIO for Manappuram Finance Limited and taking care of the complete digital transformation, IT, and technologies for them.
Thank you. Nishan.
Thanks, always. Glad to meet all of you at this forum. This is Nishant Rathi. I am the founder and director at Newsoft Technologies. We work in a number of digital transformation journeys for insurance companies and a lot of other companies in the BFSI segment. I believe I'll be able to contribute a lot over here and be able to share some of the experiences while we've been helping various organizations in their journeys.
Thank you so much, Nishant. Thank you so much to all the fellow panel members for bringing your introduction over here. I think the entire industry have been catapulted for almost 4 years into the future after this particular pandemic event, right? This event has given us a leverage, and we all have moved 4 years or 5 years into the future. What we would have thought we will be doing around in the next 4-5 years, we have started factoring those ideas, started factoring those projects and those initiatives. I think not only us, everybody around. We never thought our kids will do online assignments so easily, and children will be doing their schools virtually. The whole space of technology has completely and drastically moved so well, and we have all managed so well. We never thought that we will be able to manage this entire pandemic for such a long period, and I think thanks to all the people who are managing technology and who have invested in so heavily into this technology for the last so many years, we are now able to reap the advantage of whatever technology we have invested into. My first question to start to the panel members is, can we definitely say that technology is the future of insurance, and can we create a certainty around saying that the most agile and the most adaptive will lead and survive? Because every day, if you look into what the CEOs are talking, almost 10 out of 10 CEOs, they strongly believe that digitize or die. So what is your view onto this? Anyone from the panel can go, and then we can build up onto this.
So I'll take that. Definitely. I mean, we've been a part of a number of transformation journeys, AI, ML, blockchain, deep learning, and so on. So we definitely see that a lot of organizations are changing. Technology continues to push their boundaries. They have to innovate. They have to, find new ways of, doing the same tasks. For example, if you look at the banking sector, today you have app first, so people are not walking into branches, they're looking at their apps and doing the same traditional activities which they used to do. Similarly, insurance companies as well have been able to get onto that bandwagon, the app wagon, to a great extent. Now with artificial intelligence, machine learning, there are chatbots which can help and improve customer service. There's data which can help you with KYCs. So definitely there's a lot of reskilling happening, and which will need to happen in the industry. We as Newsoft, we've been a part of, like I said, many journeys. So we help companies, or we help organizations create this entire ecosystem within their organization. So we have the experience which comes from implementation across international and Indian companies, and that's how we help organizations. I believe this is here to stay. Technology is here to stay, and it's going to improve and change our lives as we move ahead.
Thank you so much, Nishan. Deepu, Puneet.
Yeah. So, Aves, if you look at what has happened, during the pandemic, is when everybody worked from home and everything became, paperless and digital. Everybody, realized, the value of these digital assets. And I can, maybe talk about our story, because obviously that's the experience I can relate to. So when we had the lockdown, and then call centers, had to kind of, shut down overnight, our digital assets, came to the fore, right? We have an AI-driven chatbot, we have WhatsApp, we have a mobile app. Overnight, our servicing moved to 80% of our total inflow, and that continues even to this day. Which obviously shows that technology and digital tools will continue to help us. Similarly, if you look at the entire life cycle, whether it is policy issuance or whether it is claims, which is a moment of truth, we have launched, a series of digital interventions over the years. On policy issuance, we've enabled our advisors and our distribution partners, to issue policies using digital tools. So today, more than 90% of our policies are issued digitally. Similarly, if you look at claim, which is the moment of truth in the insurance industry, on travel insurance, we launched a blockchain-driven claim settlement solution way back, nearly 3.5 years back. So here, customers, don't even have to notify us of the claim. We get in touch with them proactively and we pay the claim, which is a significant valuation from an insurance point of view. Similarly, if you look at motor insurance, which is the biggest line of business in insurance, today customers do not have to worry about calling us up, getting a surveyor to visit them, and then go through the entire IGMA role. They can basically click photographs, send it to us using the mobile app. Using a combination of expertise and AI, we get back to them within 20 minutes and make the payment. So the whole process end to end happens in about 20 to 30 minutes. So if digital has brought convenience to customers and in a sustained manner over the last 7 months, certainly here to stay, going forward.
Thank you so much on that. Puneet, you want to share something on this?
I would like to have the question repeated once again. Sorry.
So we are just trying to discuss that. Is it the point? Definitely makes a relevance that is technology the future of insurance, and will the most agile and most adaptive will survive, and rest all will leave, stay behind?
Definitely, it is. The old story talks itself. The Darwin story, the survival of the fittest, right? So it has the same mapping over here. The pandemic times has brought about the complete change the way everybody is living their lives. It's we call it as the new normal. So the flexibility of working from anywhere is only possible after extending all this digitalization and the convenience that we have given not only to our customers but also to our the entire ecosystem. You talk about the partners, your brokers, or you talk about advisory, or you even the B2B and B2C, whatever means the mechanism where the issuance of the policy from onboarding till engagement definitely plays a very big role, and it has really played a pragmatic role in terms of when it talks about robotic process automation with zero down of total manual intervention. There is at least no manual intervention. RPA is playing a very big role in terms of automations and even in terms of finance and accounts, bank clearances, bank reconciliations. Then claims management, as very rightly pointed out by Deepu, blockchain plays a very big role in terms of claims management end to end. Then thirdly, about the artificial intelligence or the deep learning, probably when we talk about one has to do a cross sell and upsell, and where the artificial intelligence plays a very big role. The entire average cycle of a person who is insured with us for a 365 days in terms of a general insurance. So be it motor or health, or maybe even for a household insurance, it is like 365 days. Even if they say that we don't have to even give them a reminders, SMS, or you can say the trigger based analytics plays a very big role in terms of in case people want to continue with the same policy, the renewal happens on its own. The premium directly goes to as an ECS through their bank accounts, even so much so that insurance portability in case if somebody is requiring. So all these things is doable only through the online and digital mechanisms, where there is no branch concept, nothing. So people sitting anywhere through any you can say device agnostic approach or a web agnostic approach, the digital tools are playing a significant role, and it's going to last for long, definitely.
So thanks. Just building on this particular point, before March, we were all not prepared for this scenario, right? We never thought that it will stretch for such a long period of time. Can I say that we were just lucky in this particular situation, and the technology supported us, because none of the industry was ever prepared to take this entire scale of work in work from home scenarios. But still, we all managed successfully. Not a single company had any glitches or any problem. Small glitches here and there. So, but do you think we were lucky and we need to, create more resilience around our technology platform when we talk about the challenges in the future?
Yes, Avez. Deepa, would you like to take, or I can take and you can follow it
No,
up?
you please go ahead. I'll speak once you speak.
Okay, so Aviz, it's not about like, people played only during the pandemic times. The digitalization was a wave almost like, three to
Right.
4 years back or 5 years back. And basically, because since the market trend was do digital, and everybody was going through the phase of digitalization, not through emerging technologies, but definitely an end-to-end automation, what we talk about. I think so that played a significant role. And the companies who were not prepared had really felt some glitches. It was in fact, the digitalization, what was done as a part of the trend setting, was the time when companies had to take an ordinate steps in terms of capitalizing on all those digitalization and automation which took place almost 3 to 4 years back. It was reaping its benefit during these pandemic times. That is where we as a technology, or what we are the facilitators, when we facilitate and give these convenience to our end customers or our end stakeholders, whether they are directly utilizing those conveniences or not, that was a time which showed and reaped its benefit. So I must say that the people who moved along with the market trends were able to reap its benefit, and they were even productive, and the performance was multifold, because there was no concept of 9 to 5 kind of a concept. It was like working from anywhere, working in no times, and 24/7 the operations were working that way.
Thank
So
you so
it was
much.
really better.
Yeah. So Abe, since you asked about luck, I read a very interesting definition of luck sometime back, and the definition of luck is, preparation meets opportunity. So,
Perfect.
a lot of players, were prepared because what we need to understand, is that it's not as if the whole world, went through it without glitches, right? Because you had sector-wise impact. There were many sectors, who were adversely affected, and there were some sectors, who were not so adversely affected. And even within sectors, there's a huge variation, between digital leaders and digital laggards, right? So it's not as if it was a seamless switch for everyone. Now, coming to your query around, whether it was luck, like I said, those who were prepared, got into what somebody called very colorfully an unplanned global UAT. This was the largest, lockdown of human beings
Absolutely.
in
Well put.
history, right?
Right.
So when that happened, right, I guess those who were ready, they could just overnight gravitate all their customers, from normal manual platforms to digital platforms, and therefore ensure that those capabilities came to the fore. And what has happened with the others is, over this period of time, since they didn't have any other option, they had to rush into this, with a lot of speed. And therefore, you are seeing that now everybody is on this wave. Those who are ahead, obviously, continue to try to, make moves to stay ahead. And those who have been laggards, they have caught up. So this is why, if you go back to the earlier question, we said that the digital way of working is now here to stay. So I guess, that's how, the two questions are also interlinked.
So, Deepu, you said that this is a new wave. As a head of operations, when you decide what particular technology to think around, what is your priority around value creation? Is it operations around? Is it claims? Is it customer servicing? Is it distribution? Which particular area you, as a company, are focusing on to?
It's very, very simple ways. And based on my own background in GE, I told you that I'd worked in GE for 20 years, right? And I'm a certified Lean 6-month black belt. It always starts with the customer. So we follow a 5-step process. The first thing is you listen to customers' feedback. Second is also, interestingly, what happens is when customers give you feedback, they give you their stated needs. But if you listen carefully, you can also figure out what their unstated needs are. And I'll give you a couple of examples of what I mean, when I say that you have to figure out their unstated needs. Then you figure out your current inventory of systems and processes, because you will find that typically they may not have been built historically, keeping the customer at the center of everything that a company does. Then, using principles of Lean Six Sigma, you re-engineer and reconfigure your current systems and processes, the entire landscape, to meet the customer's needs. And then you basically go out and deploy the right tech stack. So the tool that you use has to meet the customer's need. It is not about latching onto the latest buzzword or to the latest bandwagon just because people are talking about blockchain or people are talking about IoT, and therefore you want to do it for the sake of deployment. The rubber has to hit the road in terms of meeting the customer's need. And typically, when it comes to execution, you also pick a minimum viable product, as in what we call MVP. You don't go for perfection. And then once you launch it, you keep taking customer feedback. It's an iterative process. That's what Lean Six Sigma teaches you. And then you keep perfecting it. Now, just to give you an example of customers' unstated needs, when the pandemic happened, and this was even before the launch of Arogya Setu, we realized that contact tracing was something which was emerging as a need for customers. Because people basically wanted to understand what is it that we would be doing for them. So we came out with a feature on our mobile app aptly called social trackback, by which they could log in their contacts, and then once you log in your contacts, then right, whom you have met, and in case you get affected, whom to inform, and if you have come in contact with them, that you can take care. Similarly, we came out with the doctor on chat feature on a mobile app, again a proactive measure. Get a digital consultation and then go out and buy medicines. We also came out with the COVID-19 self-assessment tool on a mobile app.
Right.
So, they didn't have to go to hospitals. So by doing these, we created value for customers and stayed ahead of the game. It is also reflected in our NPS scores and our grievance ratios. We have an extremely low grievance ratio from the regulator's point of view.
Thank you so much. Just putting this question around to Puneet, being a CTO and CIO. Puneet, we have a lot of pressure. You also said go digital, go digital, go digital. There is a scenario of a concept around digital. When business comes to you for go digital, how do you make sure that you also talk around what ROI is being affected towards the company? How do you, so both for Nishant and Puneet being into the tech thing, how do we justify the ROI for a particular initiative? How do you define that this particular initiative will definitely give you a return? Because as we also spoke during the session, that we try to benchmark with what the industry is doing, but definitely each company is different and each company's customers are different and propositions are different. How do we make sure that we also have a substantial, answerable to whatever ROI we are trying to invest in terms of technological leverage?
Nishant,
yeah, so I just want to add to what Deepuji just said in his last statement. You've got to have the front end, the customer, definitely, but there's also the back end, which is your own operation, which has to accept what's happening. Fortunately, a lot of organizations who had done implementation had trained the people at the back who were actually responding back to those customers using these systems. So they've been able to benefit. The ones who hadn't have used this 6-7 months to retrain, reskill their people. Coming back to our first question, to be able to digitally talk to people. We've seen the KYC advertisements, for example, which was, I wouldn't say unheard of, but there was loads of paper which was going to all the different financial institutions every quarter, every 6 months on KYC. Today that happens digitally. So smoothening out or simplifying the process using digital technologies will definitely win. Coming back to the ROI thing, so anything that's digitally enabled today has automatically brought in savings in terms of the people you need, the data you've got to store, the security or the secure environment that you've got to have, and that's definitely going to give benefits in days, weeks, and years to come. And like we all understand, ideas spread like air. So if you have an idea, it'll suddenly, if you have an acceptance around in the room on that idea, you want to go ahead and implement it. Again, Deepuji mentioned about the simplest or the smallest product, the MVP that you want to build. That is the right strategy to do. Build up the MVP, look how it's affecting your environment, see how that can help your organization, and then start adding pieces and bits and pieces to that and growing it across with the acceptance of your customer and the internal customers that you've got. So I believe ROI will definitely come. The MVP is the right way to do it, to be able to gauge, what distance you've got to cover, and of course get acceptance from all the people who are going to be using the system.
Thanks, Nishant. I think a couple of times you have used the word reskill. My question to Deepu and Puneet both is, how do we reskill the future workforce? Is there any thought given by companies?
Yeah, definitely. See, when I would add to what basically just now Nishant has said, one role is definitely, to set up a minimal viable product. I also agree with Deepu about it. This is not only that, the trend or the market or the fashion is that, like, the new age technology is the new wave and one has to go about it. Everybody knows about their ecosystems, their, verticals, their domains. And possibility is that, like, when we get the requirement from the stakeholders, how technology and stakeholder business collaborate together and, finalize on one process discovery, do the, the benchmarking of the technology. It basically, comes with the, the defining together. A technology is just an enabler as a part of a tool to bridge these gaps. What is really needed is the need of the hour. If we have given one convenience, maybe in case of collections, or in terms of, like, the trend is the historical patterns in our organization in terms of defining some algorithm, especially in terms of claims or underwriting or anything. I think so that is something which a person can do only by setting up a MVP and doing some pilot testings on that. When we do the incremental rollouts, and rather than waiting for a big bang launch, we launch in small agile approach. I think so then the ROI definitely gets achieved, because when we launch one thing, we come to know what next. Then we, what the basically it's a curiosity, what the stakeholders or what the customers or what are the real users of our application or whatever convenience we have given them, they are expecting us to do. So that is something when we launch in the beta version or a full-fledged launch or a commercial launch of any particular product. I think so that is a time when we really gauge the value of whether it is a small project or the big product, whatever we get to, we launch. Secondly, coming to the skill-based approach, the reskilling. Reskilling is something which is like, if a person which is benchmarked, like, for last 15 or 16 years, he's been working in technology only, or he is a domain expert in technology, or he is a domain expert maybe in finance. But when he comes to know, he is a person who is an enabler and he is very well versed with technology and he is very latest abreast with, he has got two technologies. One is he is having a very good domain knowledge on his business. Secondly, he can be very well educated. Supposing if he wants to do some kind of automations only in finance and accounts, whether it is treasuries or any of his sub verticals, he can do, or bank reconciliations or, GST and all, he can very well learn RPA. But there is no limitation to it. So he can learn RPA and he can be sitting in his own, in his own domain and, do the robotics process automation. He does not have to have any dependency on IT. Backend can be supported by IT where it requires what kind of, technology or the platform we need to give it to him. But when it does an automation, I think so he can be multi-skilled there. Same way within IT also, if a person from infrastructure moves to information security, and we, because we did this reskilling when they were doing multitasking, people who were working from home. So it was like 24/7 supporting them on, giving them VPNs, giving them work from home facilities, giving RDP accesses and all that stuff. Even information security was working round the clock. Even so much so our internal .NET development people were also working. Even so much so our entire portals ecosystem or the partners ecosystem were not ready for it. So that is how we come to know that there is no dependency. At least we know that we are self-sufficient to handle the technology, what come, what may. So that is what pandemic has really taught us.
So always coming to your point on, reskilling, basically 4 dimensions. See, one is when work from home, happened all of a sudden, right? People have suddenly recalibrate, their own skills because it's a contactless world, right? If you look at sales, it's contactless sales. If you look at, interactions, it's basically all, contactless. So how do we get, people to work on that? The second aspect is we also leverage the fact that, for example, if you take the larger cities like Delhi and Mumbai, where people would spend significant amount of time on commute, right? So we basically ensured that, we focused on digital, L&D, as in learning and development, so that the time just on commute, could be spent on learning. And we found a lot of traction, on that front. The third thing, always, is that as we increasingly, get into a world where, let's say, there's remote working, right? The whole idea is, how do you ensure that, people have information at their fingertips? So if we can democratize and decentralize decision making, to the point where people have data available completely at their fingertips, then they can become much more effective, because today they can't come to office, collaborate in groups, sit through discussions and then take it forward. You need to find a new way of getting data out to the folks who are in the field, or who are working from home. So to that extent, how do we ensure that we reskill all these folks to make that happen? The fourth is going forward, from an entire reskilling perspective. It is the future of work. Earlier, what used to happen? You would study, you do your graduation, do your post graduation, and then you say, "No, I've studied everything there is to study, and I start working." Right? You start working for the next 30, 40 years. But the future of work is going to be different. You study and then you start working. Maybe within 5 years, you realize you need to go to preschool, because there are new technologies which have come into play, which didn't exist when you were studying. So maybe you go to school, study for 9 months, you come back and then you work. After 5 years, then again you go and study, or maybe 2 or 3 years. So the future is going to be one from complete formal education followed by complete work to study, work, study, work. So from that perspective, we are going to move from episodic learning to continuous learning and continuous reskilling.
There's one thing I want to add over here, from a service provider standpoint, there's learning at both ends, because, we go in with our technology skills while, we at times have domain expertise, sometimes don't have domain expertise. So there's reskilling happening at both ends. While we're learning the domain experts are learning a little bit of the technology and, how RPA or artificial intelligence operates, how is the decision making actually happening. So definitely reskilling is the keyword. The L&D initiative is definitely what a lot of technology organizations and non-tech companies have done to try and make sure that time is properly utilized. People are able to, or people realize now that they're sitting in their rooms, they can't have those social interactions, they can't learn from their colleagues, or they can't do that while they're drinking water or tea in the office. So that's why those L&D initiatives can add a whole lot of value for every organization, and help the individuals reskill and move ahead.
Thanks, Nishant. I think it's a very good point that learning is at both the side. We are also learning technology, and the technology people are learning domain, and that's the reason we say it's a normal phrase to say that we are all now technology company, and we are servicing a particular product. Like for us, we are doing a servicing of insurance. Deepu and Puneet, for you especially, this question is, when we talk about benchmarking, do you feel some other industry doing something excellent in this particular technology, and which you think can be very good fit for an insurance industry, be it an artificial intelligence or RPA? Not within the insurance industry, but some other industry they are using, some use case which you want to share, or you have any idea on that comes to your mind?
Yeah, so go ahead, Puneet. Please go ahead.
Yeah.
No, go ahead. Please go ahead.
So first we can say that I would like to use not applicable to insurance industry, but definitely in terms of lending industry. So in lending industry, when artificial intelligence or deep learning, where the CIBIL checks of the before the onboarding of a the basically the before the loan disbursement and anything that happens, probably the scorecard or the CIBIL checks create play a very big role. And in case they are already they could be a prospect, or they could be an existing customer. So an algorithm which is a machine based algorithm in terms of underwriting, or when we talk about when we do the credit risk of any person to onboard before, that plays a very big role. And that particular can be a use case in insurance. I not say that is 100%, but there could be some benchmarks from the industry which we can feel are doing their best, and they can be leveraged in terms of health or motor industry, depending on the product lines that the insurance industry wants to cater to or facilitate with.
So, Awais,
Thank you so much,
firstly, from your perspective, from the perspective of the query that, whether we can apply benchmarking across industries, the answer is a clear yes. I'll give you a completely different example to demonstrate this. So there was a hospital chain in the US, and they basically wanted to, reduce their patient waiting time. So, whom they went and studied? They didn't study other hospital chains in the US. They went and studied Toyota in Japan, because Toyota had perfected just in time. So if you notice, they picked up a best practice, not only from a different industry, but from a different country. Then they came back and applied it, in their chain, and they were able to, significantly, reduce, patient waiting time. So the lesson here, is that nobody should have this NIH syndrome. NIH is not invented here, right? Which means you do look outside your industry to pick up best practices. Now, coming to your point, sometimes you don't even have a choice. And I'll tell you what I mean when I say that you don't even have a choice. So today, when you get onto digital assets, when I deploy a chatbot, when I deploy a mobile app, we have to understand that from a customer experience point of view, the customer is not going to compare my bot or my mobile app with the best app or the bot that he has seen in insurance. He is going to compare it with the best bot and the best app that he has ever seen.
Absolutely.
So the moment you get into these industry agnostic digital assets, you do not have a choice. You don't, there is no discretion available. You have to compare yourself with the best in that category. So which means when I come out with an app or when I come out with a mobile, when I come out with a chatbot, the benchmarking we have done is industry agnostic, right? So it could be a range of players, including players who are not in PFSI. And just to give you an example of where we think we did well, when I told you about the fact that we met customers' unstated needs, and I told you that we launched this contact tracing feature called Social Trackback, we launched Doctor on Chat, we launched COVID-19 self-assessment toolkit. This is not an exclusive. This is not the exclusive prism of insurers. This could have been launched by any player who had those mobile apps. And because we did that, customers rewarded us. When we got an independent NPS survey conducted by an independent third-party agency, we found that we enjoyed the highest scores in the industry and by a significant distance over our competitors. So that's my perspective on this.
Absolutely, I agree to that. I think the tech exploration helps us to not only look at a particular industry, but to go beyond geographies and adopt the best of the possible things which can give our customer a good experience. Also, my personal learning is this entire situation of this pandemic has pushed us to identify those processes which are very much heavy in terms of time consumption and money consumption, and we all have started thinking to how do we simplify our own processes, how do I simplify our own solutions. And in doing this efforts, we have all did some quick innovations and small innovations, and a lot of success stories are there around. People, I think even the homemakers, how they have tried to sell homemade items using Google Forms. There are so much of innovations people have in the day-to-day life, used to even go out and do selling and contactless selling in small grocery shops. How milkmen are using the tech to deliver their milk at the building, and how societies have used technology to make sure that there is a proper social distancing being managed, the COVID contact tracing has been managed, and everything is managed. Do you have such processes and any example you want to share which had not been this pandemic in discussion, you wouldn't have changed a particular process? Has there been any such use cases which, if you don't mind sharing with us?
So there have been a number of cases where, as far as we are concerned, we're industry agnostic. We work with banking, we work with insurance, we work with manufacturing, we work with e-commerce, retail, all of them across the board. Like Deepuji rightly said, you're being compared to the best app over there and not the best insurance company when it comes to an app. So there are a lot of ideas which can actually be utilized. The simplest of them being chatbots, and which were initially only used for customer support. Today they're being used by anybody and everybody. A very good use case is, I believe, everybody who's using Vodafone, Airtel, or Jio uses WhatsApp to exchange information and get their information using a bot instead of calling in the customer support and getting information. So that is a definite use case which has come on board today. If you look at how companies have transformed, it's also reduced. So in the pandemic, what happened? People were not even, the call centers went down, and people were not able to report, or rather the call center executives were not able to report to work, and which meant there was a whole lot of call load which was coming in. So how do you optimize that? You allow people, or you get your chatbots in, you put in the right amount of data into them, and they respond back to people. So that, I believe, I'm sure everybody will be able to relate to that, and has been a part of this information exchange over WhatsApp or SMS, in the good old days where we used to SMS the option and it would keep responding back to us. So that's how the transformation has happened. That's how we've been able to reduce those workloads on those call center executives, and improve the overall customer satisfaction or customer query closure rates.
Thanks, Nishant.
So let me add to that, Awais, and talk about it from 4 dimensions. One is the point that you made, saying that what have we done afresh during the pandemic. One, like Nishant rightly said, what happened is there are times when, weeks happen in decades, and there are times when decades happen in weeks. So here, because the assets were ready, they zoomed, dramatically, over the first few weeks. So that was one way, in which, the adoption went up. So it was not about launching anything new. It was just about utilizing what it already created. The second example of, which is directly to your question around what we created, I just gave you those examples of what we did on the mobile app, right? COVID-19 self-assessment, social trackback for contact tracing, doctor on chat. These were specific digital assets launched on the mobile app for the ease of customers. The third thing which has happened is as we go into the new normal, right? I think now everybody has come out with a fairly clear work from home, and a work from office policy, right? I think that is something new which has happened during the pandemic. The fourth thing, whenever we discuss, digital transactions, I think most of us tend to forget that behind any digital transaction, the initiator and the recipient, they are human beings, because it is not a machine to machine, transaction. So we shouldn't forget the human angle. So one thing we did here, I think, which really was, a revelation even for us, was initially we were worried about, keeping our employees engaged because they were socially and physically distanced. But we said, how do we keep them, digitally and emotionally connected? So what we did, we converted adversity into opportunity. When people are in the office, you only come out with employee engagement programs. Now that people were at working from home, we came out with family engagement programs. We said they're working from home, let's come out with a family engagement program. So that was something new that we did, from an employee perspective. So one weekend, for example, we came out with a MasterChef competition. We had everybody's, families participating, right? Somebody's mother, somebody's wife, somebody's cousin, somebody's daughter. And we have a WhatsApp group. People all over India, from Kerala to Punjab to Rajasthan to Bengal, were busy posting recipes and photographs of their dishes. And then, that motivated us to come out with a lot more family engagement programs. So much so that our employee engagement score during the pandemic was higher than our employee engagement score prior to the pandemic.
Super, good to know that. Puneet, you want to share anything on that? You definitely are new to Universal Sampo, but I think
we also did some, but we at our community as a part of the CIO and CTO community, we did a lot of family engagement programs. It was more of like, a series of, people, master chefs that, as we are telling, they engage with some like, a motivational speaker or a program where, people wanted to showcase, what exactly is their core activity. Some of the CIOs who were like, very good at singing and playing and all that stuff, they were coming up and along with their families. So, the revolution came where we used to have once in a year family program about the CIO, CTOs in their respective geographies. So all India, pan India came with almost like more than 500 to 1000 CIOs with their family engagements and all that stuff. And, and then the reward and recognition programs were also there. So that also, created a sort of that technology is not only limited to CTO, CIOs, but only we extended there to their families as well. So CIO club initiatives were quite good for us also as a part of the engagement programs. Secondly, in terms of, a value creation, what we can say more and more collaborative tools which were available in the past were not being used. But I think so more on in terms of motivation, doing morning huddles, creating, a team engagement really created a very big role. Whether the project management tool was only tracked in terms of like what is like whether it is in a month the target dates are getting delivered or things. So over deliver, over engagement, and in terms of like incentivizing the to keep the morale of the employees quite high during these pandemic times, I think was the need of the hour. And it was like keeping more and more engagement not only with the customers but also in terms of employees. So this also was enabled only through technology.
Absolutely right. I just got to recall a funny incident of engagement. I think some of the areas we have engaged too much with the customers. Many times employees have been told to reach to a customer and understand how he or she is doing. And, people in full honesty and innocence have been calling up customers every day. They say, sir, how are you doing? Are you well or not? Making sure that the customer get pissed off with this question every day. Just moving forward, we understand this entire technology around this insurance domain will definitely try to reduce claims, improve services. And when we talk about reduce claims, you also talk about reduce premium. So can we say, I'm just trying to speculate this particular question to the forum, can we say that the future, the tech, emergence of tech is also trying to, there is a threat to the insurance business as such? No? So with increase technology, we are reducing claims, right? With artificial intelligence, money learning, predictive analysis, we'll be trying to reduce claims, and reduce claims will in further reduce premium amount. So can we say that there is a huge amount of risk to the mitigation industry, what we call as insurance industry?
I think it's too early to come up with a full ranging what shall I say, sweeping statement on this entire aspect, because what we need to understand is that business models will need to evolve, right? Business models cannot be static, and that's been the nature of any industry. Just to give you one example, if you look at health insurance, right? Typically, when you invoke insurance during illness, right? But if you look at a customer's life cycle or the journey with the insurer, obviously, if you look at that journey and break it into the wellness portion and the illness portion, the ratios don't even match, right? I mean, it's just completely disproportionate. Now, as an insurer, you need to decide whether you are going to be there with him only during his illness time, or are also going to be there with him during his wellness time. If you make a choice to be more engaged and you're there with the customer during his entire journey, whether it is wellness or illness, right? In a sense, that you also move from, curing to prevention. Because let's say you partner with him in a way that he takes care of his health, then he never ends up, being in a hospital, to even, be in a position, where he may need to get hospitalized and subsequently, lodge a request for a claim. Now, that's a strategic shift, right? You're moving from illness to wellness. Now, when that happens, you need to look at, all the variables which come in. And sometimes you need to figure out what is the driver. Is the driver revenue, or is the driver true customer centricity? And we have always believed that what is truly good for the customer is good for the company and good for the industry. So therefore, I think if you keep the customer at the fulcrum of everything that you do and you gravitate in that direction, then the business model, on its own, will start yielding some results over a period of time. And we'll have to see, how that plays itself out, right? The other area in general insurance, for example, is the weather, right? The weather plays a significant role. Now, we have seen two things which have happened. One is that the so-called black swan events have become far less infrequent over the years, right? They have become much more frequent now. It's no longer once in a lifetime event, or
Black
once in
swans,
a
they're all gray
5-year
swans.
event. Exactly. They have become much more frequent. Absolutely. The other is then even if you look at climate change, right? It is possibly one of the underrated topics today, but it will have a significant bearing on the way insurers conduct themselves for a period of time. So there are far too many variables at play away. So it's not easy to come out with a sweeping statement. All I can say is we kind of wait and watch and see how it happens and take it one step at a time. But definitely each variable as it comes into play will change the business model as we go forward. Be it climate, be it movement from illness to wellness, where you have a better engagement, also usage of more data, this movement from from curing to prevention. When you put all of that together, the insurer who comes into existence or who will stay relevant, let's say 5 years later, could look very different from the insurer in the form and fashion that you knew it 5 years back. Therefore, I think it can't be like a simple sweeping statement one can make. One has to study it and come out with a considered point of view over the next 5 years.
Also, Deepa, what I feel is that, the patterns of the prescriptive and predictive analysis will definitely have its new definition now, because with each evolvement, when we do that, the technology or the risk, as very rightly pointed out by Aves, that with the each new experience, we are just going to evolve with the new normal. So once this evolvement is becoming significant, then only we can really see that it is a big threat, or it becomes like a more of a benefit, or it will become a threat. So I think so it will be an opportunity, or it will be turning down the business. I think so it is still I can say that we cannot really predict about it.
Yeah, I agree to it. I think a lot of opportunity will be emerging for us. New products will be coming up. I think penetration will significantly increase. Profitability of organization will significantly increase. I think the market might, we don't all know at this particular moment, but definitely the product dimensions will change, the distribution models will change, and how we do the profitability and how customers benefit out of it everything will change. I think very shortly. We have been listening to what insurtechs are trying to do, a lot of new scientific ways of predicting what particular ailment somebody will go through and what particular driving pattern somebody have, even without using a telematic device, put it in the car. So behavioral analysis will come into picture. So it's going to be a very interesting space for all of us to wait and watch. Nishant, you have some insights to share for
Yeah,
us
so
on that?
a lot of products, not only in the insurance industry, but other industries as well, are going to become obsolete. So once you have driverless cars, there are certain insurance policies which may not be needed. We're talking about millennials not wanting to own anything. They're
Right.
happy, just experiencing it. So now you see there are a lot of products which are anyway going to get obsolete. Even whether it's the automotive sector or the insurance sector, which is linked to the automotive sector, and either or. But there are products which are going to get obsolete. So definitely there is a need for companies to innovate. Technology is going to fuel that innovation. You have to innovate. There is no other option.
So you're saying you are agreeing to the fact that digitize or die, right? And
Absolutely.
I
Digitize
like
or
the
die.
example which Deepu gave about innovation. Innovation need not just be simply copying somebody else's mechanism. It also has to be something which is very, which fits into your ecosystem, adds a value to your ecosystem,
Yes.
irrespective who is doing it. So I think we have covered a good amount of discussion around this particular topic, and still you have anything to share? I think we'll love to take it.
I think, yeah, we
Looking
had a
at the
range of
time.
topics we covered, and I guess we've also consumed all the time available.
So any key wins, any key successful thing I think you want to share? Any one key event in your organization which you want to share, which has helped the technology has helped you?
I think I
So I
spoke
know,
about always
yeah,
the fact that we had invested in digital assets, right up front, and they really came to the fore, during the shift, from the call center to a digital way of working, when the lockdown was thrust upon us, right? Because it happened at very short notice. And I think what is heartening for us is the fact that, even today, 70 to 80% of our servicing continues to be digital. So, which means, we really did build good customer journeys. And the biggest validation we got was in the form of a huge dip in our customer complaints during that period. Our customer complaints came down by 90%.
wow,
Thank you.
that's a big number. That's a big number.
Right. I want to actually talk about employee engagement, which I think Deepuji or Puneet, one of them, actually highlighted. The fact that organizations, whether insurance or otherwise, have invested in various employee engagement programs. The digital platforms have somehow been the most successful, and I believe this is a very big change that you're going to see in times to come, where most of it will be one to one rather than one to many, or organization to all the people getting engaged as employees. So building and investing in those employee engagement platforms should be something that has to be should be considered by every organization, whether or not whatever industry you are in. That will help you save a lot of money, uh, and of course improve employee satisfaction levels, connection levels, to the greatest of levels. So I believe that's a great use case during COVID times, where everything is digital.
Deepu, I think Nishant, Puneet, and Deepu, everyone, a similar question to just came to my mind. We are talking about touchless distribution, and when we say insurance is the subject matter of solicitation, how do we solicit customers? Will this new shift benefit the customer when the things becomes normal, or will the customer want to continue with this particular way of doing business?
See, always one thing we have seen is that insurance continues to be a push business, right?
Right.
That's why it's a hugely distribution-led business. So what we have done, for example, is enable our advisors, to continue to service and of course sell policies to customers, using digital tools, right? So as I said, it's about contactless sales, right? Now here, obviously like insurance being a subject matter of trust, while the mode has changed, your values don't change, right? Which means, for example, your consent is explicit, your transparency is complete, and you need to make sure that, you inform the customer right upfront about all the aspects of, inclusions, exclusions, right? So on and so forth. So I guess there is absolutely no gainsaying that. I guess why customers are going to gain is because one is now, it's a shorter sales cycle, right? You don't have to wait, make long physical visits, meet 2, 3 times, right? You cannot do a call and, you kind of can do it faster. And also when you get into a digital way of working, the entire process, gets crunched into a lean one, right? Because electronic exchange of information, quicker digital payments, and therefore, faster output coming the customer's way. So I guess digital way of life will only make it simpler for everyone, right? Because it just cuts out all the inefficiencies, which were inbuilt into the system, over a period of time. So that is, the second way that I see it. Thirdly, as far as data and customer choice is concerned, from a privacy perspective, it's always about choice. So, for example, when we launched IoT-based products, we always told customers, the choice is yours. You give us more, we can give you a more refined and a more personalized product. But if you do not want to share data, then you can take the vanilla off-the-shelf product. So, I think with the availability of products and with a clear choice to customers and explicit communication, I guess it should only become better for customers, partners, and the insurance company, which means the entire ecosystem going forward.
A lot of work for CIOs and CTOs, Puneet.
Very true. What exactly Deepu is trying to say, I fully agree on it. I think so. It is more of a customized, a personal touch, which probably was being given extended during the personal visits. So these digital tools like video KYC or like facial recognitions and all that stuff is giving the convenience, which is like so fast tracked. Basically, maybe it's only the the customer has to think when he says he has a face-to-face interaction on videos and all of them. See, he just has to think that I'm finding a right product for me and my family, and which is giving me this convenience. I think so that is something which is giving them a trust factor, and then it is going to evolve day by day. I'm just thinking that the companies are evolving, and it is the faster policy processing, faster recognition, and everything is only through technology it is happening, and this is going to further evolve only.
Yeah, I think I would also agree to that. Some of the consumers are actually going to stay back on the digital platforms. In fact, I would say a majority of them. From a company standpoint, I believe that for companies for an insurance company, if they're saving money and they're also running the same or achieving what they were achieving with the personal touch, I believe digital first is going to get accepted. We've seen most of our customers looking at building on that MVP. Some of them have gone to version 2, version 3, and now already dreaming about having a completely different version, looking at what are the trends in the industry. So again, if you're not the first mover, it doesn't matter, but look at what is available, look at what you can replicate into your current organization and your current client base, and that's it. That'll help you move ahead.
You have to keep on moving. That's important. Absolutely well put in, I think, to end this whole conversation. Amazing insights. I think so much to learn from all the seasoned panelists. Thank you so much for being with us. It was a great learning for us. I think how the technology is exploring, how do we, becoming a device agnostics, how employee engagement is helping, what are the latest market trends building up, how we are trying to reskill employees, how there is a new level of engagement, both in terms of customer and employees. So much to learn around this entire 1 hour spent well. I think my heartiest thanks to all of you for sharing your wisdom, your knowledge.
Thanks to everybody. Thanks to Puneet and Nishant for wholeheartedly sharing their views, and thanks to Aves for moderating it well.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for the opportunity as well.
Right. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Aves. Thanks, Deepuji, and thank you, Puneet.